Computer Programming Essentials, Unit 6, Part 2. It's common, a common error is to misplace a semicolon in an if statement, and there should be no semicolon at the end of the first line. So notice the if some variable equals 10. There is no semicolon after that. If there were, it would cause that if statement to terminate, which means that regardless true or false, it would execute the statement that follows. So a semicolon directly after the if represents an empty statement, and it typically is a logic error. So here's an example. If quiz score equals 10, semicolon, the score is perfect. So no matter what the quiz score is, it will print the score is perfect because we have the semicolon at the end of that if. So look at how that appears in the flowchart. If quiz score is 10, true or false, we're doing the same thing because the answer is that we're not doing anything as a result of it being true. So it will always output the quiz score is perfect. Just a heads up, avoid that common pitfall. It's also a common pitfall to attempt to determine equivalency by using a single equal sign rather than a double equal sign. The single equal sign is the assignment operator. The double equal sign is the relational operator that tests for equivalency. It's also inappropriate to use the standard relational operators to compare. You only use the standard relational operators to compare values of primitive data types, not reference types. And we haven't talked about reference types very much, but we will talk about using these common relational operators with strings. So we'll get to that shortly. The single alternative if performs an action based on a certain condition being true. There is also a dual alternative if, which will do one thing if that condition is true and a separate thing if that condition is false. That's represented with the if-else statement. It performs one action if a Boolean expression is true and a completely different action if that Boolean expression is false. Let me show you an example. If quiz score equals 10, it outputs the score is perfect. Else, it outputs no, it's not. Note the indentation with this code. We indent for the condition if it's true. The else lines up with the if, and then we indent for no, it's not, what we do if that condition is false. That indentation is what you should follow when writing your code, writing your programs. And also notice that the if statement performs one and only one statement as a result of quiz score equal 10, as a result of that expression being true. If we want to do more than one statement, we have to group it in a code block, as we'll see. Also notice how this is represented in the flowchart. Quiz score equals 10, true, we output the score is perfect. False, we output no, it is not. Notice how a flowchart does a really nice job of representing the logic that's going on in this particular problem. Also notice the labeled flow lines and how generally the flow lines are flowing from top down. After what we do if it's true or what we do if it's false, the flow lines come back together and continue on to the statements that follow, which we don't see as a part of this particular figure. To execute more than one statement, we need a pair of curly braces. We need to put the curly braces around the statements that we want to execute if it's true, or around the statements we want to execute if it's false. For example, if hours worked is greater than a full week, so someone worked overtime, we want to calculate their regular pay and then we want to calculate their overtime pay. We want to do two things as a result of hours worked being greater than full week. But notice that in this particular case, recall that Java largely ignores whitespace. Java doesn't care how you indent. So even though you indent and it looks like, yeah, I'm doing both of these things as a result of hours worked greater than full week, Java does not group them unless we use a pair of curly braces. So this flowchart is representing what would happen based on that code, which is not what we want. It's an example of a logic error.